All right. Well, I should preface this by saying the comments and thoughts are solely mine. They are not reflective of my previous employer, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or the National Weather Service, or the Department of Commerce for that matter, because as of May 1, I am at the ripe old age of 45, officially retired. We'll get to that story. I do want to thank Dr. Wemple and the folks here at Vermont for hosting us. DevCon is super important to me. The first ones were kicked off in Salt Lake City a couple of years ago, a place where I continue to call home, though I haven't been back there for a number of years. Vermont in the Northeast is also a similar home. In fact, my origin story begins in this pathway towards becoming the director of the National Water Center, about 150 miles to the southeast of us, at a town called Old Forge, New York. That's where at the age of about 10, I fell in love with whitewater kayaking. And somehow, 9 years later, that led me to walk in the front door of the River Forecast Center in Salt Lake and ask, how do you make a river forecast? And that turned into a job, which fortunately turned into 5 years of a really exciting pathway towards where we are today with a community of robust, qualified, competent, passionate scientists and hydrologists that are changing the world. And believe me when I say this, you have fundamentally changed the world. Where's Ryan Johnson? Is he here? Ryan Johnson, University of Utah? No? Apparently he missed the keynote lectures. I wanted to thank Ryan because Ryan is the inspiration for the title of this talk, which is Casting Forward, a little bit of a play on the words in terms of forecasting and looking towards the future, which is something that I think all of us are finding ourselves now doing in a very, as Senator Walsh would say, a very alarming way. The attack on science is real. The attack on scientists across the community, not just within the agencies, is a dark day for this country. And I think it's one that we can look forward to shifting and altering, but it's one that we're gonna have to live through. We're gonna live through it together. I want to acknowledge Ryan because Ryan, like myself, is an avid fly fisherman. And this phrase of casting forward is also a reference to an author who I hope many of you, if you like to fish or read or just love rivers, a gentleman by the name of Steve Ramirez. He uses fishing as a metaphor for looking forward into life, looking back retrospectively, but also looking at things in a different perspective in terms of how we interact with the environment, how man and humans have lasting positive and negative impacts on the world in which we live, particularly the waters and the streams that keep us vibrant, both from an economic perspective, but also from an ecological perspective. So I encourage you, if you have spare time to read, spoiler alert, if you're retired, you get a lot of spare time to read. I encourage you to check that author out. So in terms of reflecting on where we are in the state of the science, I want to thank Dr. Frame for his question to Senator Welsh about the impact. The changes between 2011 and 2024 and 25 are profound. I'll give you one example. Early March of this year, the nation faced an unprecedented flood stretching from about the middle Mississippi all the way up into the headwaters of the Ohio. And in doing that event, we were able to apply the science and the research that CIROH has helped really usher into the operational forum of the National Water Center. I could not have been prouder of the folks that worked in that center, our operations division across the National Water Center writ large, but most importantly of all of you and your contributions to the science, because it wasn't just the tools like the water model, like FIM. It was the understanding of how to communicate, how to get the social impact and social information out in a timely fashion and use the right language to communicate to people. So I don't know how many of you experienced that flood, but it really did stretch from Arkansas all the way to West Virginia and even portions of New York. Early the week of that Monday, about 7 days before the rainfall hit on Saturday and Sunday, folks began messaging that this would be a generational flood event. Not extreme, not high-end, not record, generational. And it was that understanding of using those types of words and qualifications around what we were forecasting that allowed folks, I believe, to take proactive planning stages, even just mentally preparing for what was truly an unprecedented event. So fast forward throughout the week, messaging done across the board by various elements, both the federal and private sector, academia. Does anybody know how many fatalities occurred in that event? 6. 6 fatalities, 3 of which were first responders hydroplaning and unfortunately crashing and losing their lives from vehicular-related incidents. In 2017, about half the amount of rain fell in about a quarter of the area, really just kind of the state of Arkansas. I'm sorry, 2017. There were 21 fatalities. So we had a generational flood event, 5 years or 8 years to the day after, almost 8 years to the day after this event of April 2017. And the loss of life was really in flooding 6 people, 3 people. That's transformational. If that's not transformational, I don't know what that is. The amount of rain produced hundreds of millions of acre feet of water into the Mississippi. By my calculation, it was about 10 times the amount of flow on average that goes into Lake Powell every year. Unprecedented amount of water came through that system, and yet, because of proactivity, because of the science of research to operations in hydrology, not just of water and of hydrology, but research to operations, this full gamut of the modeling tools, the social science, communication. I think you guys saved lives. How many folks can sit here at a DevCon and say the work that I do saved lives? Not that many. This is a very, very, very special cohort. So that is a way to say that as we look forward into what I expect will be continued unprecedented challenging times at the federal level, that I have hope for how this community can come together. And this community is comprised of not just academia and government, it is also comprised of private sector. My hypothesis is this, that over the next decade or more, as we see the shifting landscape, the result of 20,000 years of experience walking out the door of NOAA alone, that's just one federal agency. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of decades of experience have left federal service. And these are folks who are both visionaries, they're executives, they're research scientists, they're program managers, they're advocates. It's the full gamut of things that affect change. My hypothesis is this, that academia and the private sector will have to fill the gap. There will be a bathtub. We saw this after Senator Tuberville blocked promotions for many generals in our armed forces. There's a bathtub, a lack of succession planning within our nation's military. The same thing will happen with science and services in particular. Let's face it, the challenges of the 21st century as it relates to water, oh, and by the way, climate change is real, I can say that finally. We all know why. It's like the artist Pearl Jam said, drop the leash. The leash is off and I am untethered. I don't know if that's good or bad, stay tuned and find out. The challenges of the 21st century in a changing climate, as it relates to water extremes, both too much, too little, and of poor quality, will be profoundly faced by small, local, regional communities. These are not national problems. They are, at the sum total, a national crisis in many ways. The flooding that we saw stretched nearly a third of the country. The water supply issues faced in the western half are literally half the country. And they impact everything from resiliency to the economy to life in and of how we know it. My hypothesis is this, and this is just one person's thought, but as we look towards the future of CIROH, I think we need to look at this rich relationship. So we have today, by my count, Aquaveo, Jupiter, Research Triangle Institute, Google, Linker, Esri, AWS, and others in this room at the table as a private sector components of this vital community. My challenge to all of you is how do we think differently? How do we think about this as a community-wide effort to become resilient, to work down at the local level, to work down at the, oh, there's Ryan. Hey, Ryan. You missed my shout out to you. I'll catch you later. Did you bring your fly rod? Yeah, I left mine in Alabama, but you had more fun than I did. Anyway, the challenges that we'll face will really need this kind of multi-sector component. So I challenge all of you to think differently about how public-private partnerships will be the next mechanism, the next iteration of CIROH's march towards the future of water predictability and resiliency. So with that, I look forward to the Alabama Water Summer Experience. We no longer call it the Summer Institute. But during that process, we will be working, Dr. Maven is back, we'll be working with a cadre of folks, many here in the audience today, to really kind of explore this public-private partnership shift or re-guidance or redirection. And so with that, I can't thank you enough for inviting me here. I can't tell you how fortunate I feel to be here and how much many of my federal colleagues yearn to be here with you. For many of them and myself, this is one of the best things that we do in our careers every single year. We don't have opportunities like this, and we don't have the energy and the spirit that this, particularly DevCon, brings. So thank you all for welcoming me back, and like I said, I will be here up until at least Friday mid-afternoon. So have a wonderful DevCon.